Hello, nerds. Thank you once again for watching Generally Nerdy. This is the week in Nerdom for July 12th, 2019, and in this episode we've got so much going on. We've got a bunch of new music, we've got some back and forth on some TV stuff, all kinds of... I actually have comic book news, it's amazing! Let's get into the intro real quick and then we can touch on all of the news! Okay, first things first, we're talking music like we do. We've only got two pieces of music news today. First of which being Puddle of Mudd. Yes, that's right, they are still a band, as is shocking for me to find out as well. I thought Wes Scantlin was like in prison somewhere because of all of the craziness that was going on. Just a couple years ago, like he got arrested in the Denver International Airport because alcohol is a thing. Alcohol is a hell of a drug. So they have a new album coming out called Welcome to Galvania, and a new single from that album has just been released. It's called Uh-Oh. It sounds like a very weak attempt at capitalizing on She Hates Me and a couple of their other catchier singles. This sounds like not even the B-side to those. It sounds like a lesser talented band playing them, and I'm not the biggest Puddle of Mudd fan to begin with, so it's interesting. There's a link to it in the description if you feel like listening to it. I mean, it's not a terrible poppy rock song, but it's definitely not a good poppy rock song either, so if you go listen to it, keep that in mind. But then our next piece of news is a lot more exciting for all of you heavier listeners. Not even necessarily Opeth. All right, let's stop talking circles around and let's just get to it. Opeth is putting out a new album. Now, I have not been the biggest fan of what they've done since Watershed. It has been getting better, very much progressively been getting better. I can't remember the name of the last... Sorceress, I believe, was the name of the last record, was pretty good. It's just not... Like, I prefer the stuff that they did with Watershed and everything kind of leading up to it. Their heavier stuff, if you will. So this song is called Heart in Hand. It is from their new record in Cauda, Venenum. And I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm pretty sure it's in Latin. Though the record is going to be recorded in two languages. They're recording in Swedish and in English. At least that's what the release made it sound like. Though it very well could just be it's all the same music and there's a Swedish version of the album art and an English version of the album art, just with the Swedish song titles versus the English song titles. So that's going on. It's going to be out September 27th. And this song, the first single, and this is one of the reasons why I freaking love Opeth. The first single, and actually we'll get into the quality of the single in just a second, but the first single is 17 minutes long. The single is 17 minutes long. Yeah, okay. So the link to it is in the description. It's a lyric video kind of, and it's honestly really good. It's really, really good. So, like I said, they've kind of put their heavier stuff behind them. There haven't really been any super aggressive Opeth records made since, again, Watershed. And if you haven't listened to Watershed, definitely go listen to Watershed. It's one of the greatest heavy metal records ever recorded. It's phenomenal. Go check it out. Anyway, this new one, based off of this 17-minute single, is going to be a really good mixture of everything pre-Watershed and everything post-Watershed. Sorceress, again, I'm fairly certain that was the name of the last record. Sorceress was a decent mix of the two, but this song, this Heart in Hand song, I mean, the obvious prog length of the song aside, definitely has those elements of, they've got some really interesting blasty beat sections, they've got just it's a roller coaster of all of the sonics that you expect from Opeth, minus maybe some of those more extreme vocal styles, but still, Mikhail Acker, I'm not even going to make an attempt to pronounce his last name, Mikhail, is kind of a musical genius, and it definitely shows in this. So go listen to this, even if you don't like heavy stuff, if you just like very interesting and very good songwriting and very expansive songwriting. Again, 17 minutes is a long time to listen to a single song, but it's great. It's great. Go listen to it. We're going to move on. Jumping right into TV news, guys. We have a couple of Walking Dead updates. First off, we have a new spin-off series that's going to be starting. Don't know the title just yet, though we do know, at the very least, that they are actively casting for it, and it is going to revolve around 2 young female protagonists. So, Walking Dead woke edition, maybe? And the other piece of Walking Dead interesting news comes from Angela Kang, who, talking to Entertainment Weekly this past week, said that the return of Maggie is something that they are, quote, working on. No real details. She couldn't go into anything further, but now that Lauren Cohen is effectively a free agent because Whiskey Cavalier has been canceled, like we talked about, it appears that it's not just the fans hoping and dreaming that she comes back. It is actually the series itself that is hoping and dreaming that Lauren Cohen will return as Maggie in potentially season 11, not as likely for season 10. Next up is a quickie update on the Falcon and Winter Soldier Disney Plus miniseries that we know is happening. It appears that Disney Plus has brought in Derek Kolstad, who was one of the writers for John Wick, or the screenwriter, I believe, for John Wick. They've brought Derek in to the writing room for this series, which very well could mean we're going to see a very, very action-packed series with the Winter Soldier and Falcon. And then our last piece of TV news for this episode comes from your favorite Saturday morning cartoons. Though technically, this is a return to form for this particular cartoon, just so I'm not burying the lead, we're talking about the Flintstones. It has been revealed that Warner Brothers is in the works to do a revival of the Flintstones with Brownstone Productions, which is owned by Elizabeth Banks, actress and now producer Elizabeth Banks. Her production company, Brownstone, is teaming up with Warner Brothers to do a more adult-oriented version of the Flintstones, very likely for HBO Max, because that seems to be the way of things anymore, though those specifics have not been made clear yet. If it is going to be on broadcast television or streaming remains to be seen. All we know is it's going to be adult-oriented. So again, return to form for this, because if you remember, if you know your cartoon history, both the Flintstones and the Jetsons started as primetime television shows that were kind of geared towards the entire family, though with something that even adults could enjoy about the program. Now let's talk movies real quick, guys. We've got our first bit is a little bit of a cross-communication that just seems to have broken down. Eternals, Variety was reporting that for the Eternals movie, that Millie Bobby Brown was the newest cast member for the movie. And then just yesterday, last night, I believe, she went on her personal Instagram page and said, no, that's not happening. At least not as far as I know. And, you know, I would be the one to know. So maybe, maybe not. Millie Bobby Brown might be in the Eternals. The Variety could have quoted their source incorrectly. They could be looking to cast Millie Bobby Brown and just haven't yet, but we won't know until it happens, so we're moving on. Next is kind of related in that it deals with another Stranger Things cast member. I'm going to say his name wrong. Dacre Montgomery. Dacre? Okay. He was Billy, I believe, in the in Stranger Things, and he was also the Red Ranger, though that might be where Billy's coming. Anyway, he was the jerk older brother in Stranger Things and the Red Ranger in the reboot Power Rangers movie. He has told on a Reddit AMA, he said that the entire cast has been let go. Hasbro is looking to reboot again the Power Rangers franchise. That seems very strange, but you know, whatever. Next, we're talking Space Jam 2. This is the first casting announcement that isn't an NBA player, as far as I know, and that is Don Cheadle. Warner Brothers playing very tight to the chest. We don't know what role Don Cheadle is going to play. We actually don't know much about the plot to the movie so that we can make any speculations. But Don Cheadle has signed on to be in the movie, at the very least. Then we got another one from Variety. Guy Ritchie is no longer directing the Sherlock Holmes movies. There is going to be a third Sherlock Holmes movie starring Robert Downey Jr., but unlike the first two movies, it will not be directed by Guy Ritchie. They have brought in, instead, Dexter Fletcher, who directed Rocketman, to direct this movie. And then our final news update for movies, guys, is around the Sonic the Hedgehog stuff. So if you don't know, Tim Miller, the guy who did Deadpool 1 and a bunch of other great stuff, but Deadpool 1's the first one comes to mind. He is producing the movie, and he has seen the character redesign, and he's been quoted as saying, by, again, Variety, he has been quoted as saying that the fans will be pleased with this character redesign, though I feel like it's a tenuous tightrope to walk with this beloved and still kind of not as well-known character. So we shall see when we get the first redone trailer. This episode is a rarity in that gaming is shorter than comic books. Usually it's the other way around. Usually comic books is the shortest section. Not always, but usually. This episode, gaming is definitely the shortest section because we only have one piece of news, and it's honestly a giant piece of news, so I was debating whether or not I was even going to bring this up, but Nintendo has solidified the rumors that yes, in fact, the Switch Lite is a thing that is going to be coming out, and we got some spec details, and so we know a little bit. We got pricing, all that jazz. So first up is pricing. What is going to be the difference between the Switch and the Switch Lite? The Switch Lite is going to be $100 cheaper, so it's clocking in at $200, and I honestly, I don't know how I feel about that, because the other big thing about the Switch Lite is that it will not connect to your TV screen. So it is only a handheld device. So much so that it doesn't even have the kickstand built in, so you can kind of prop it up and make it look like it's its own little screen. So with the $200 price point, I feel like that's a little bit expensive for a handheld device. I realize the 3DS came out at like $300, but the 3DS now itself is like $150. You can get it used for about that. Even cheaper, I think, maybe $100, $120. And I really want a Switch, so I might end up getting a Switch Lite because of it, but it also sounds like there's going to be compatibility issues between the Switch Lite and the Switch Standard, because the Joy-Con controllers are effectively built into the Switch Lite. They did say that there is going to be compatibility. You will be able to connect extra Joy-Con controllers so that you can play multiplayers on your Lite. So it sounds like pretty much all of the functionality is there, just maybe not some of the compatibility. And I feel like because they're going to create a labeling system so that you know this game will play on my Switch Lite or this game won't play on my Switch Lite. So if there weren't going to be compatibility issues, if they didn't foresee compatibility issues in the future, then they wouldn't be creating this labeling system. So I might just save up the extra $100 and get a proper Switch, because it just seems to make the most sense. What I'm waiting to see is the Switch Pro, what they're going to do for a top-end model, because that has also been rumored to be in the works. Now let's move on to comic books, and I'm actually super excited about pretty much all of the stuff we're going to be talking about in comic books for this episode. The first thing, and I just had to put this at the top of the list, is a new DC Black Label announcement. This announcement is concerning 2 new books, one of which is another Joker book, but it's written by Jeff Lemire, who is kind of amazing, but also a new Question book, also written by Jeff Lemire. Lemire and his team, let me get the names of the artists. Lemire and his art team, and Andrea Sorrentino, Dennis Cowan, and Bill Sienkiewicz are all going to be on the art for both of these books. And while I'm vaguely familiar with those art names, the big thing here is Jeff Lemire, and I didn't write down the names of the books, and I should have, but it is Joker, Last Laugh, I believe, and then the Question one is too long for me to have committed to memory by just casually glancing at it. But These are two. I mean, I've never really read much about the question, as evidenced by my review of Detective Comics 1000. Didn't understand why they decided to put the question in that one story. If you haven't read 1000, you're way behind. But I'm interested to see how Lee Meyer is going to approach the Joker, because we're getting so much Joker right now. I mean, we've got the movie coming out, that's obvious, but we also have the Three Jokers book that's going to be coming out. That was Jeff Johns, I believe. I'm very much probably wrong on that, but it's still no, it was Scott Snyder. I don't remember. Whatever. But we're getting the three Jokers book. That is a thing that is happening. Is it Azareo? I don't know. Anyway, Lee Meyer, though, is a very unique writer, and he's got a pretty unique voice, and I'm very interested to see what he's going to do to make his Joker book just as relevant as the Three Jokers book that we're going to be getting, presumably at close to the same time. I think the Three Jokers book is the next Black Label book that we're going to be getting. Lee Meyer's just now announcing this book, though we already have cover art for this book and not really for so I don't know, maybe they'll come out at about the same time, which will make it even more interesting to see how the two compare and contrast. Also, a deeper dive on the question will probably be exactly what I'm looking for, especially on the Black Label, because they can get away with some more mature storytelling elements, and so I maybe that's what I'm looking for to get into that character. I don't know, but we're going to see as soon as they release, and I couldn't find release date for the books, so I'll probably update you in the next episode about that. Our next piece of comic book news has to do with The Mask. That's right, Old Big Head is coming back. For those that don't know, The Mask is a comic book, was a comic book long before it was a movie. Well, about half a decade before it was a movie. And the last time we saw it in comic book form was a DC crossover, because Mask is done by Dark Horse. That is a Dark Horse publication. This time... I'm sorry, and the last time we saw it was the DC crossover where it was Joker Mask, and I haven't read that book. I've actually only recently been aware that it's a thing, and I really want to read it. I went to my comic book store looking through back issues to see if I could find a copy, and I couldn't, so I might have to just order it on Amazon, but whatever. This new Mask we're going to be seeing this October is when it's going to come out, and it seems like this one's going to be a little more politically charged. There is a synopsis. I will try and post that down in the description. I just feel like it's really interesting that this cartoon character is going to be a political book. Also, it's really cool that they're bringing The Mask back. I think that's a good move for Dark Horse. I feel like that's a well-known IP that they should be capitalizing on, so that's going to be pretty cool. But our last piece of comic book news comes from Marvel. It is Wolverine and Captain America Weapon Plus #1. I know that's a very large mouthful. It's a one-off. It gives us a little bit more insight into the Weapon Plus program, and it's just I'm just putting it in here because everyone should go read it, because that is one of the most interesting elements of the Marvel Universe. That is one of the unifying elements of the Marvel Universe. That's what ties... I just found out it's what unofficially ties Deadpool to Wolverine and Wolverine to Captain America. Though the official Wolverine to Captain America thing has been made canon. The Deadpool part of that element has not been made to canon. I thought it was canon, so I've always just assumed Deadpool was the Project 11, Project XI, effectively. But we don't know who Project 11 is. This book, though, gives us more of a rundown of all of the projects between 1 and 10. So between Cap and Wolverine, we get a lot more. This guy was Project 4, and this guy was Project 5, and it doesn't give us all of the 8 missing projects, but it does give us a good chunk of them. So definitely go pick this one up. It's really interesting, even if the writing isn't exactly the most solid. Still really cool mythology to be expanding on and to grow your knowledge of the Marvel Universe. But that, guys, is the end of the episode. What did I miss? What should we talk about next time? Let me know in the comments down below. If, though, you want to go deeper into the conversation, jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net. That is the place that you can go get all of the freebies and all of the social media links and all of the everything, or patreon.com/generallynerdy. If you are into extra content, then you can go support me on Patreon and get access to quite a bit more, so go check that out. If you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe, or if you like the episode, there's a thumbs up. You can let me know that. There's a way to let me know otherwise if that is the case. But before we go, though, guys, there is boxes right there to the left of my face that you can click on to see other things. If you need to catch up on your nerd news, if you want to see what else is going on the channel, those are the places to start for that. And always remember, guys, that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.